And the next steps would be, in order to fulfill the sales order, you would have to receive this order and invoice this order. So you can do receiving on the PO directly. So again, depending on the size of your team, whether you have a slim team or a fully fledged team that has their own segregation of their duties, you can set the system to work accordingly. Let's say you have a slim team, just one person doing everything. You can operate everything on the same page, right? You can create a PO, you can send it. You can also receive the quantities being on the same page without having to go into another functionality, which is pretty well designed. And I can say that comparing to other ERPs that I've worked in the past, where you have other pages to go into, it becomes a little complicated. This one is more intuitive for you. So you're able to receive the order right from the same page. But if you are a full-fledged team where you have your buyers as a separate team and your receiving as a separate team, then you have a segregation of duty where you can create something called as a warehouse receipt, which will be a separate document having its own functionalities. To use it with a barcode scanner, you can have the option to enter a lot number, a serial number, and it can mask the financial information. So whatever that you'd like to have the receiving person to do is a separate function by itself, right? That you can also turn on that functionality. So this is where we can configure the system for you depending on the requirement. So I posted the receipt and I can see on the line right now, if I scroll down, the quantity received is updated. So this is good to go. So now what happens to the inventory? If I go back to the inventory list, I should be seeing an increase in quantity. It's now 21, which was earlier 6. So your inventory is now automatically updated. It is good to go for fulfilling the sales order. So before we move on to the sales orders, I'd just like to show you a couple of additional steps on the procurement side to close the loop before we move on to the sales side, right? So going back to the purchase order, again, I don't have a shortcut here. It's pretty quick and easy to create a shortcut if I need to, right? By bookmarking it. And from a financial perspective, now here's where we move from procurement and warehousing to the financial piece, which is for invoicing, right? So now wearing a hat of an accountant, we can pretty much do the invoicing on the same screen. Again, you don't need to have a separate function to do the invoicing. If you're a slim team, you can enter the invoice number right on the same screen. You can double check the quantities, the dollar amounts through the typical three-way matching. And if everything is looking good, you're able to post the invoice or record the invoice in the system with the click of a button. We can do this even better for you by incorporating what we call as the OCR technology, where if your vendor is sending an invoice to an email, we can integrate the email to read the invoice from the email and automatically record that invoice in the system, which is the optical character reading. So it cuts down one step manually that you will do what I'm showing you right now, where the invoice is automatically created through the system when the email is received from the vendor. So again, completely depending on what your requirements are, how many orders that your invoices you're getting, we have some functionalities that we can turn on to do those functions for you. Invoice is posted. Want to take a look into the invoice? I can say yes or no. Typically, we don't need to take a look into the invoice. It's the same information. But what has happened in the background is your financials have been updated. Their payables is updated, your inventory is updated, and this is where your GL balances also get updated. So the financial piece takes care at the point when the postings happen in the system.